So today we're talking about the baobab tree and baobab fruit. Those of you who were with us last week when we had the incredible Stephanie here with us know that you are going to be in for a treat today when we do some recipes with the baobab fruit, and this comes from the baobab tree. Welcome to Elegant. So welcome everyone. What you see here is the baobab, the way you get it in the United States from the company MOR, meaning More Organic Resources. So we're so glad and so happy to have you here today. Welcome, welcome. And we trust that you will really enjoy this recipe, that you will make it, because this recipe is full of high energy and the nutrients that are so valuable and that we all need on a daily basis. So it's important to have a wide variety of different foods in our diet to make sure that we have the full spectrum of all the nutrients. So I'm going to now bring you into the Elegantly Raw kitchen, and you will see here that we are going to be giving you a wide array of ingredients, such as, here we have all of the different fruits we'll be using today. So we have got some oranges here that we're going to be chopping up. We've got, of course, the moringa. You might have heard of or seen the moringa from the last show that we did. You also have here the mighty baobab fruit. Now, you'll see it here in powder form. And that is because in real life, that is exactly what the fruit looks like. So if you were to chop this fruit open, this is the fruit on the tree right now, you will actually see it looking pretty much like this. This powder is very powdery. So we're going to be using this today, and we're going to be actually going right now into the recipe. So this, what you see here, this is the mighty coconut. So what do we do with the coconut? We freeze it. We freeze the coconut, and that will give us some frozen coconut meat. So this is the coconut that we use. And on the table, you will see that we have a lot of other fruits, which we'll be using today. And you will be able to enjoy them as I make them if you take this and do this with us. See, this is the actual fruit, the actual meat of the coconut. So I froze it. And if you look here, you'll see that there are different pieces of it that I have taken out of the actual husk, and I froze it here. So we're going to be adding to the coconut, we're going to be adding the baobab. This is the fruit that we're celebrating today. So let's put this in, and let me just bring you over here a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. And here we go. I'm putting a few teaspoonfuls in there because it's a bit citrusy. It's a bit on the tart side. So you don't want to overwhelm it or overdo it. And since we're going to be using these oranges anyway, that will also make it tart as well. So we're going to be cutting up the oranges, and we're going to be using that in the blender. You do need a powerful blender for this, just so you know. The more powerful, the easier it will be for you. So you cannot use a regular blender to make this smoothie that I'm going to be making today. So here we go. We're putting the actual oranges in there. So I'm just slicing them in two because this is a powerful blender. It will do the rest for me, unless I have a large one. See, this is a much larger one. So I peeled it first, and I do like to leave a little bit of the pith on, since that's really healthy as well. I don't use a lot, leave a lot of it on. See, you can see I took off a lot of it here. And we're going to mix this first before we put in other things. So you notice it's very juicy. It has a lot of juice to it. So even although it has all that juice, I am going to open up this coconut and I'm going to put in some of the coconut water in there. So for that, I'm going to bring this over here so you can see it. I'm going to put it down here and I'm just going to pour the coconut water in there. So it has the coconut meat, it has the oranges, it has the baboa fruit. Can you see that? All of that there is in there. Now, we are just going to make it simply like this. Nothing else to add, just this in there. So I'm going to put on the blender and you're going to hear some noise, but it's the blender making its music. Okay, so wasn't that easy? All you have to do is do the prepping beforehand. So you will see now what this, the smell, oh my goodness, the smell alone is just seventh heaven. So you see, here is the smoothie that we're making for today. Here we go with the baboa fruit, some oranges, and of course the coconut. But should we stop here? Well, I don't know. I don't think we will. I think we're going to be adding some other things. So this is what the coconut looks like, and you have to chop it. And then I'm just going to put this away because we're not using this part anymore at all. Because now we're going to be adding to what's left here. You can see that we have some left over here. We're going to be making actually something which I think you will all be happy to get. And that is, we're going to be making an actual energy bowl. Yes, an energy bowl for you today. So for that, we're going to be using cherries. So here are the cherries we're going to be using today for the energy bowl. And these cherries have been chopped and frozen ahead of time as well. And the reason why is because for the energy bowl, it cannot be too liquidy. So I'm just going to take the spatula. I'm going to be putting the cherries in here. And yes, these are a lot of cherries, of course. They have been depitted. And you can see some of the juice of the cherry there as well. So we're going to be having all that in our energy bowl. And this will actually make it not just thicker, but we're increasing the ingredients. This is a lot of cherries, as you can see. I happen to love cherries. I think there are not enough people eating cherries, and then organic cherries are so expensive that most people cannot afford it. But we need to be eating more cherries on a daily basis. And so it is one of my own advocacies that we start making these things much more affordable to people. I happen to be somebody who believes that food ought not to be something that we have to have money to pay for. So I work a lot with food waste, and also I wonder why it is that people and restaurants are throwing away food when so many people are struggling just to put this kind of food on their plate. See how liquid this is? So I'm going to pour the liquid in there as well. So we have all this lovely, delicious cherry juice. And I'm just going to wipe the sides of this first before I put it back on. It does make a bit of a cherry mess. Yeah, cherries definitely like to have their day. And I'm going to put the top back on. Let me put this away first. And I'm going to put the top back on. One cherry got away from me there, right here. And now I am going to actually put in something which I really, really think you all will love if you were here last week, which is some moringa. So the moringa here, it's green, of course, and we're going to be putting in But this is about a tablespoon and a half of the moringa. I'm also putting in some avocado, which already chopped up, very ripe avocado, of course. I'm going to have to use the spatula to take the rest of it out. Actually, I'm going to use a spoon instead. This will not just make it thicker and creamier, but it will also add, of course, some fat to it. And this is all fruit. So, you know, this goes together very well from a food combining perspective. The moringa, if you did not watch the show last week, we will actually have Stephanie on again in October, speaking more about moringa because there's so much to speak about it. But today we are actually highlighting the baobab fruit. Baobab, B-A-B fruit. And because I want to put some more protein in there, moringa is a complete protein. It has all the amino acids in there, the whole complex. So this is a company called Raw Power, and they make this Brazil nut protein, which I'm going to also put in there. For those of people who are always criticizing vegans and asking, where do you get your protein? Just show them this video, please. We get a lot more than they do, and ours is accessible because really the body has to work to extract the amino acid from the protein source anyway. So it's not that the body needs protein, it needs amino acids, and we get that from protein sources. So here we are. See, we're ready to make our energy bowl now. So I'm putting this back on here on the blender. Here we go. Get ready for another blender dance. Okay, so here we have the juice that was made first, the smoothie from the baobab plant. I am going to actually sprinkle a little bit of rose water on there because I happen to love, this is edible, of course, rose water. I happen to love spritzing a little bit into my smoothie, but I won't put it at all in the energy bowl, because in the energy bowl, I have other things that I'm going to be putting. So I'm going to be using this bowl here. Always make sure it's glass and not plastic, please. And then I'm going to pour this in there. So it's nice and thick now. Of course, when it goes into the fridge, it will thicken up even more. But here you go. You've got a cherry baobab fruit, moringa, energy bowl in the making. And now let's finish the bowl. So here I have, a few weeks ago, you remember, I featured the fruit that has two names that you think of it. It's known as pitaya or dragon fruit. So I cut these up and I'm going to be putting them in the energy bowl. Some people call this a smoothie bowl, by the way. I prefer to call it an energy bowl because I've got the moringa in there. I've got the baobab fruit. I've got all the energy creators. You know, food is energy. Food is not calories. It's really a misconception that we need to eat calories. We need energy. We are all beings of energy, and we need to replace our energy. And I'm wiping my hands off on these vegan, 70% cellulose and 30% cotton from Sweden, called Wedit. And now these are raw pistachio nuts. I'm going to put some raw pistachio nuts here. I'm sprinkling some on the pitaya and then some in the middle here. I hope you can see that. And then here I've got, these are goji berries. For those of you who have met the goji, I am sure you know that when you want some really high energy, high vibrational foods, that this is one of the sources to go to for that. So I'm going to put some goji berries also on the pitaya just to decorate it a little bit. And here we've got the coconut. So these are dehydrated coconut flakes. And that's the last thing I'm putting on the smoothie bowl, or the dehydrated coconut flakes. Here we go. And, you know, you can put them anywhere you want. There's no specific way at all. I just say use your own imagination, use your own style. And remember, you're working with nature, so you're working with energy. And so you can never go wrong. And that's what I love about nature. There's no wrong or right, as long as we honor nature. So there we go. There is our energy bowl for today. Now, I said that this is all energy. That's why I'm calling it an energy bowl. And there's a reason why. We're meant to eat energy, high, really high vibrational energy of the highest order if we wish to maintain a life that's full of aliveness and healing and fortitude and resilience and strength for all we do during the day and at night for each other and for ourselves. So we need high energy foods, but we have companies that rob us of our high energy foods, rob us of our high energy in these beautiful gifts and works of art of nature. And why do they do that? Well, for profits, of course. And what is it exactly that you need to look out for? Well, that's the reason why today I am so happy to welcome someone who is one of the foremost food advocacy people in Canada, from the province of Ontario. Please help us welcome Rachel Parent, who will totally explain what is it that pulls the energy us out of our food and rob us all of our energies on a regular basis. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me, Dorit. This is such a wonderful, and I'm gonna have to try making that smoothie. It looks incredible. Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rachel Parent. I'm a youth activist from Toronto, Ontario in Canada, and I've focused on food systems for the past 10 years now, trying to refine our food system, trying to reform it, and trying to make it so that it benefits everyone at the end of the day. I started with this, as I mentioned, about 10 years ago, when I accidentally found out about GMOs. And I just stumbled across this acronym. It didn't really mean much to me at that point in time. But I felt when I started to find out about GMOs and their impacts on our soil health, on animals, on our Amazon rainforest, where they're cutting it down in Brazil to grow genetically modified soy. When I found out the impacts on our climate, when our soil is degraded through monocultures and regular agriculture, it actually releases carbon into our atmosphere and contributes further to this climate crisis. So as I started to find out about all of these connected issues, including poverty, animal cruelty, to the very food that I was putting on my plate every single day, I knew that I had to do something. And that's when our journey began. I started a march with a group of people, and I had zero resources, zero social media at the time. So I created a Twitter account, which is @Rachel'sNews, and anyone can still follow me there. And that continued to grow to a website and then to a nonprofit. And now our goal is to make sure that we are advocating, first of all, for mandatory GMO labeling, the right to know what's in our food, as well as an entire reform of our food system, questioning why we are eating proteins in everyday food, questioning why we are eating ingredients that are known to cause cancer, questioning why we think that eating junk food is a natural and affordable thing, when in reality, healthy food should be what's affordable, healthy, unprocessed foods. So that's how my journey began. And when Dorit invited me, she asked me to talk about a few topics. So I'll get into those a little bit as we go on. GMOs, for those who don't know, are genetically modified organisms. And it's where they take DNA from one species and insert it into another to introduce a new trait. So it sounds a little bit complicated, but in reality, there's two main types of genetically modified foods right now in our market. And if you read ingredients on your everyday cereals, on your everyday foods, things like corn, canola, soy, and sugar are oftentimes seen in almost all processed foods. Majority of those ingredients are genetically modified. And the two main types of GMOs are pesticide producing. That's where they take a toxin and insert it directly into the seed so it starts to produce its own pesticide, basically. And when a bug tries to eat it, its stomach will be poked with ulcers and it will die. And on the other hand, we have herbicide resistant. So these big corporations are patenting the seeds that are now herbicide resistant, and you can spray as much herbicide on it as you want without having to worry about killing the plant, but it'll kill all the weeds around it. And of course, this is an advantage to corporations. They get to own food that we eat every single day. They get to make money off of patents, off of selling the seeds to farmers year after year after year, after getting farmers to sign on to contracts saying that they can't save their traditional seeds anymore and have to not only buy genetically modified seeds, but then have to actually buy the chemicals that come along with it, like herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers. So there's a lot of deep concerns that come with genetically modifying our food, because you can't bring DNA back. There's no recalls once it's out in nature. And this has been a huge issue. Let's say one farmer is growing GMOs and the farmer next door to them is not. If the farmer who is not growing genetically modified seeds is found to have GMOs on their property, or let's say crops cross-pollinate, this happens all the time, they can actually be sued for patent infringement. And this has happened all over the world. That's constantly happening. And that's where our food becomes more than just what we're putting in our bodies. It's become a human rights issue, an environmental issue. When it comes to the environment, our food system is linked to 44 to 57% of all greenhouse gas emissions. The dying off of our bees and our butterflies, we've seen a 90% decline in monarch butterfly populations. And this is directly correlated to our food system, the chemicals that we are spraying. So I think one of the biggest things is that we have to start to be aware exactly of what our impact is, and understanding that every bite of food that we eat is having an impact on the world around us. It's no longer just about us as individuals. And there, as I mentioned, been huge issues human rights-wise. For those of you who have seen it, the Monsanto trials in the United States, that's where Roundup, the key ingredient in Roundup, it's a weed killer that we see even on Lowe's, Home Depot, any of these massive chains, they all carry Roundup. Well, that's also used in our food supply. And the key ingredient is glyphosate. Glyphosate is sprayed on about 70 crops, not just genetically modified crops. And these are things that we vegans do all the time. Things like wheat, lentils, chickpeas, many legumes. So it's really important that we start to realize what exactly our food is being sprayed with. And we can really make that difference. Why it's important, though, is because the WHO actually came out in 2015 and said that glyphosate was a probable carcinogen and may be causing cancer in people. And we've seen that time and time again. There's over 125,000 cases in the United States that are pending against Roundup and against glyphosate because it's caused non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so, as I mentioned, this is now a human rights issue, and this is affecting not just people in the United States and Canada. I was in touch with a group actually in the Amazon who were telling me that these big corporations came in and said that they promised educational materials, they promised a better way of life, they promised more money, more crops, if they were to grow these genetically modified ingredients such as corn and soy specifically. And what ended up happening was, because there was a language barrier and because no contracts were officially signed, the corporations later came back and said, you're growing our seeds, they're patented, and you're no longer allowed to do that. The land is now ours. And so this is a common issue that's happening all over the world, and land grabs have become continuously a problem, especially when corporations and greed come into play. Why we should also be worried about glyphosate is that it actually is a registered antibiotic. So in this age of a pandemic that has swept our world, we need to be cautious about what we're putting in our bodies. And we all know that antibiotics, if there was ever a bacterial outbreak, could be helpful in treating mass populations. But because we are technically eating a registered, an unregistered, unsafe, unprescribed antibiotic daily in foods that we don't even realize, like soy, like lentils, like chickpeas, we're actively lowering our immune systems. And on top of that, glyphosate is a chelator. It chelates our minerals and our nutrients in our bodies and prevents us from being able to absorb them. And so we are actively overfeeding ourselves and undernourishing ourselves while at the same time lowering our immune system. And this is a really dangerous combination. And I mean, we've seen all over the world right now how low our immune systems are, and we have to start connecting the dots back to our food system and making sure that we are taking care of our bodies now more than ever, because we need to be able to fight against this. We need to be able to build up our immunity and be healthy and be strong. And the state of our food system is incredibly bad. We've seen that 40% of people in the United States are nutrient deficient. And the same thing is happening here in Canada. We are nutrient deficient. And this is because the food that we are eating is simply not allowing us to actually absorb those nutrients. And the state of our food system is completely owned by corporations. I actually had a meeting with a health minister, not a health minister, but a minister in our parliament in Canada a few years ago. And he said that even if 99% of his constituents wanted mandatory GMO labeling, that it wouldn't become a reality because it goes against his own moral code. I later found out that that moral code was that he rents out his land to a farmer who grows genetically modified canola. And in fact, he makes royalties off of that. And so the connections between biotech industry and our government officials is very, very interconnected and linked. And we've seen that they're in our parliament, in our governments, sometimes up to 200 days a year, lobbying and making sure that money is going in the right direction to be able to make sure that regulatory agencies are not looking out for us as consumers, but are instead looking out for big corporations. So that's something that we need to fight against, because at the end of the day, why do we have regulatory agencies if they're not going to be looking out for us? And one of the things that I do want to say is that we need to be extra vigilant as vegans, as people who pursue plant-based diets, those who are looking out for the animals, especially, to make sure that you are also taking care of yourself. I know the entire point of veganism is to care for the animals, but when we don't take care of our bodies, often the foods that are bad for us are also bad for the planet, and bad for animals long term as well. Genetically modified soy is being grown in the Amazon and is growing in these sensitive areas, and pesticides are killing our bees, our butterflies, all natural wildlife, and they're being fed to factory farmed animals. It's a larger, broader system. So we need to basically divest from this system ourselves on a personal level, as vegans, and move towards a system that benefits everyone, because something that benefits the environment is going to benefit animals and is going to benefit the larger of humanity, is going to benefit climate change. When we move away from animal agriculture, and when we move away from genetically modified, chemical-intensive foods, we are also helping the environment. So it's a larger, broader picture, and I hope that we can all be a part of that together. And there's so much we can do. I know my time is wrapping up, but I just want to say, join community gardens, be part of the movement, join Kids Right to Know, be a part of what we're doing. Try and buy organic and non-GMO when possible. There's so many options for a brighter future. Divest from these foods and biotech and industrial agriculture. Ask questions. Don't just accept things at face value, because what's being sold to us in mass media is often not the right answer. And there's so much that each of us individually have the power to do. So please get in touch with us. Our website is kidsrightoknow.com, as well as kidsrightoknow.org and genearth.org. And our Twitter, Instagram is @Rachel'sNews, and you can find us on Facebook as well. Thank you so much, Dorit, for having me. This has been an honor.
Gianni.
Hi.
Gianni, please.
Hi, Rachel. Let me see if I can mute this. Well, thanks for reinforcing the connection that we have to our bodies and how important it is to stay true to being ambassadors of our own health, and really highlighting the importance of just nourishing our bodies. Because oftentimes vegans get caught up too much in the ethics of things, but I think it's important that we have more youth ambassadors like yourself doing this work. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, so we have a comment from Renee. She says, this is a political issue and should be a humanitarian issue. Vegani Saturn says, very smart young girl.
Thank you for that.
Okay,
and, back to you, Dorit.
Thank you all. I'd like to give a big shout out to Joy Chernak, who's watching today. And hello, Tom. Nice to see you here again. I really, really wish to give all my gratitude to Rachel. Rachel is really the person to watch. If you really want to know what's going on with your food supply, start following Rachel. It's not just about food, and it's also our own integrity, our own dominion over our own lives. So just as peace is not something that we need to strive for because it exists already within us, we simply have to pull away the cobwebs of our life and clean them out to get to it. The same thing with our food supply. Our health ought to be something that we can attain ourselves. Unfortunately, we did not pay attention to the food. We need to give more reverence to the sacredness of our food supply. If we had done that, we would not be in this dilemma we are right now, where others have taken over our food supply. This is not about food and about eating something that's delicious or that makes us feel good. This is about energy. We need this energy source. We are energy ourselves. And the food is the energy that replenishes us and replaces our depleted energies. By not taking charge and taking dominion over our food supply, we say, it's okay, I don't care about it, as long as it's delicious, as long as there's a lot of it and there's plentiful of it, that's all I need. That is not giving the true reverence to food. Because food is more than just what it looks like, what it seems like. It's the energy of the universe coming into us, passing through us, and enabling us to uplift ourselves and be the precious healers that we came here to be. If we're feeling exhausted and tired and depleted all the time, it's simply because we've given away the authority of who grows our food, what is done with it, to others. So I invite you to use this show, use us, use Gianni and Rachel and myself to take back your power, because your energy and the energy of everyone, every other being on earth, it's all wrapped up together. You know, I take energy from you, you take energy from me, we take energy from the goji berry, we take energy from this baobab smoothie. We take energy and we must give it back. It's important that there's always a fair exchange of energy going on. It's not enough to just simply believe that it's all about eating and about mealtime. It's never been about mealtime. No, no, no. That is just something that we've been socially hypnotized to think. This is about our food sovereignty. When we give that away, we are diminished immediately and we're depleted. So please, I invite you today to restore your sense of reverence for food that was lost, maybe as a child, maybe as an adult, because of all of the issues around food, all the power struggles with your caretakers around it, whatever reason. Please, I invite you to start following Rachel, start following the show and all the other shows here on the Jane on Chain Network to see how you can take back your power. Because once we give our power away around food, we give our power away for everything else in life. So I'm going to just finish off here by putting some of these goji berries into the smoothie. And I'm going to be putting some of this coconut flakes into the smoothie. So this is the smoothie that we made today. And I say l'chaim, and to all of you celebrating the Jewish New Year, Shana Tova. And I'm going to now remind you, this is what energy looked like. This is not just something that's delicious or for which we go for entertainment. This is actually one of the most reverent life forms on earth. This is not just how we replenish our energy, but all other energies on earth depend on us to do so as well. So please, everyone, take your power back and please allow us and help us to live a life of vibrancy, of love, of inner peace, and above all, a life where we not only look at the food supply as something to give something to us, but we realize that we are responsible and it's a fair exchange of energy that needs to go on. So, Rachel, my deepest gratitude. And we will all see Rachel on here from time to time, or at least once a month. We're hoping to bring her back on because there's so much happening and she is right at the forefront of it. And we also need to hear her own story, which is pretty fascinating. So thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gianni. And thank you to
Thanks,
all
Cody.
our audience. Anything else from our audience, Gianni, that we need to?
Vegan to Saturn says, thank you for good advice, but that's about it.
Okay, so until next week, everyone, when we're going to be having a very special guest is Vanessa Marceau from the bathtub. Please join us again next week, same time, same hour, same place. Until then, it's Dorit saying, be mindful, be merciful to yourself, and be loving to yourself by making sure that you have authority around your own food supply. Until then, thank you for tuning in.